Americans are still trying to process the global realignment that has occurred following the disastrous Oval Office meeting between the president, J.D. Vance, and Volodymyr Zelenskyy. What happened, they say? Are we still America, they say? Whose side are we on, they say? It's complicated. The best way that I can explain what happened and show Americans how to process this new reality was with another shocking turn of events from this weekend.
On Saturday night at the Elimination Chamber, the WWE shocked the world as Jon Cena turned heel, joined The Rock, and attacked Cody Rhodes.
Now, if that does not immediately explain to you our current geopolitical climate, you must have grown out of watching wrestling through the normal course of aging. I, on the other hand, understand this in my bones. This explains it, folks. All of your shock, all of your disappointment, all of your anger, it's in there. It's in the squared circle. You see, Saturday night, we're doing this. Saturday night. Jon Cena, the good guy of professional wrestling, Mr. Hustle, the champ, the man who stood for everything, truth, justice, the guy who literally holds the record for the most Make-A-Wish Foundation meetings of all time. People would get cancer just to meet Jon Cena. Last weekend, Cena flipped the script and went from being a face, a good guy, to a heel, a bad guy. Now, if you don't follow professional wrestling, and I'm guessing if you watch this show, you do not. Judging from, all right. But let me continue to bore you with this metaphor. So here's what happened. The current WWE champion is one Cody Rhodes. Seven people say around. Cody Rhodes is the people's champ. Unquestioned bravery. He stands in for Zelenskyy in this metaphor. A couple of weeks ago, The Rock, the now evil owner of the WWE, Putin in our story, made Cody Rhodes an offer.
The one thing that I want more than anything in this world is that I want your soul.
Putin, he wants Zelensky's soul. But sir, I am smaller and weaker than you. It will take incredible bravery for me to protect my soul and the soul of my people. But luckily, I am not protecting my soul alone. For I have the support of the great Jon Cena! So, Cody Rhodes, Zelenskyy, told Vladimir Putin, Rock, no soul for you, motherfucker! And that's when they met in the Oval Office. America went to hug Zelenskyy, but when America looked up, somehow Putin had given Jon Cena the international sign for its time. And rather than repudiate Putin, America smelled what The Rock was cooking. And through that borschte haze, America delivered the nut shot. The nut shot to the hopes and dreams of Ukrainians everywhere. And then, for no reason, America jumped on Zelenskyy and started punching him in the face as many times as he could. Too simplistic? No? This is it! Am I being too simplistic, assigning to the delicate art of realpolitik a scripted outcome? Perhaps, but judge for yourself.
Putin broken 25 times his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
Well,
You're not
Mr.
in a
Brown,
good position.
I
You don't
was
have
in
the
a-
cards right now.
Think-
You're gambling with World War III.
what are you
You're
thinking about?
gambling with
What are you
World
thinking
War
about?
III.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times,
We
Kevin.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion. You're either going to make a deal or we're out. This is going to be great television, I will say that.
It sure wasn't. But isn't that what you want from the high-stakes diplomacy and real-life urgency that ending war demands? And you know, even reporters got some nut shots in.
Why don't you wear a suit?
Oh, shit! No, you didn't! Let's do the dozens. Oh, Zelenskyy, you're so poor and war-torn, you're down to one Brooks brother. Oh, shit! You've so war-torn, you've given up the meaningless protocols of business attire. If you think I'm pushing this metaphor, look at the stunned faces in the crowd at WWE when John Cena turned heel. I now present you the equally stunned faces of those watching this Oval Office pay-per-view.
Scott, I've never seen anything like that. You've never seen anything like that.
Wow. Just wow. That was something. Caitlin, I want to start with, look at her face. I mean, Christiane.
You broke Christiane Amanpour. The woman wanders unprotected through Taliban-controlled Afghanistan, doesn't give a f***. 10 minutes of Trump diplomacy, and she's like, is anyone else dizzy? My A1C is plunging. Now, of course, there is one big difference between the WWE and the world of politics. In the WWE, they seem very clear on who the good guys and who the bad guys are. Nobody walked out of the match pretending that the guy who got nut-shotted was the bad guy.
There was this attitude of ungratefulness, seeing his smirk, seeing him roll his eyes, seeing him refer to J.D. Vance, the vice president, as J.D.
He shows up in his Equinox chic outfit to the doggone Oval Office.
President Zelenskyy was also antagonistic, and frankly, he was rude.
So impertinent, so disrespectful.
Tone deaf, going in and fighting back, getting sassy with the president and the.
He was sassy.
He was sassy.
He was sassy. He was a real scallywag. You know what I would say if I was there in the Oval Office with him? I'd say, you better watch your tone, mister. I think it was Churchill who, during World War II, was roundly criticized for being a bit lippy. Excuse me, mister, we'll decide where you're going to fight them, whether it's on the beaches or not or whatever. Poor guy, Zelenskyy. His nation was invaded. He's against all odds held off a much bigger army for 3 years. And we're like, would it kill you to smile a little more? Dress a little nicer, your beautiful country, nobody would know. Show off what you got, you know what I'm talking about? Maybe some of those rare metals I've been hearing some about. But of course, if you criticize Trump's very clear hostility to Zelenskyy, and very clear appreciation of Putin as being suspicious or a repudiation of American values as they've been outlined since World War II, Trump's people quickly set up straw men north of Richmond.
If there are no negotiations, what is the alternative? Another 4 years of war?
We're not saying there should be no negotiations. We're just surprised at the side you seem to be negotiating for.
President Trump recognizes the urgent need to end this war after 3 long, bloody years. President Zelenskyy has different aims in mind.
Yeah, bullshit. I'm pretty sure everybody wants to end all. Hitler wanted to end the war, just not the way it ended. You're pretending that we have no other options.
Our hearts all break for the suffering and loss and death. But you know what will be even worse? World War III.
Yes, I'm sure your heart, in quotation marks, is breaking. But in your little zero-sum formulation, you are correct. Total capitulation by Ukraine, loss of all their mineral wealth, and no security guarantees is still better than World War III. For now. But you know, everything sounds better if the only other option you're presenting us is World War III. You can listen to the Amelia Perez composer freestyle another verse at the Oscars or World War III. Eventually, you will agree to hear another verse by a hair. These guys are so up Trump's ass, they can't even admit that this meeting was Russia's wet dream.
The world is now watching how Trump behaves and acts when he's pressed. I thought he stood up for America, that we're a good people, we want to help you, but we're going to be respected. So I think Moscow is probably more afraid of Trump than ever.
Yes, people get terribly afraid when someone viciously takes their side. They must be quaking in their... What do Russians wear on their feet? I don't. Is it shoes inside other shoes and then they get very small? Until the last shoe that you take off is a tiny shoe, and you're positive this has got to be the last shoe, and then, but no, little baby tiny shoe, little baby tiny shoe. No, look, you don't. You know what? Putin must be quaking. Let's get this is the actual Russian state television view on Russia's fearfulness.
The new administration is rapidly changing all foreign policy configurations. This largely coincides with our vision.
America said, do whatever you want. It has nothing to do with us. It's such a pleasure to watch.
Basically, he is taking our bread and butter. We wanted to saw the Western world into pieces, but he decided to saw through it himself.
Not only are the Russians not fearful, they're f***ing delighted. Do you know how hard it is to delight a Russian? There's only two ways to do it. Break up the Western democratic order or bear on roller skates. It's the only two ways. Or social media dash cam death. Three things, really. Look, none of this is to say Zelenskyy handled this meeting well. Everyone knows by now Trump's love language is subservience. If he calls your wife ugly, you praise him. If he calls you whittle, you run his State Department. And if you're a foreign leader who wants to be on good terms with America, you got to butter Trump up like he's Texas toast. British PM Keir Starmer knows how it's done.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter.
You do it, Zelenskyy. It's a letter from the king. It's got a wax seal on it. It was brought here by Harry Potter's owl. Ooh, ooh, what a delight. Ooh, the king is throwing you a ball. You'll be the belle of the ball, and then I'll sweep your chimney. Ooh. Zelenskyy shouldn't have gone in there with Russia hasn't abided by any ceasefire agreement, so we can't trust them. He should have gone in there with a dessert cart and a Kyiv hotel opportunity. So this meeting has deeply wounded America's alliance with Ukraine, as well as the rest of Europe. And the punditocracy is having a hard time figuring out the strategy.
I worry that the president is actually not interested in a deal about Ukraine, but I don't understand it.
The question now, Jim, is what happens in Europe?
How does this make America great again?
It just does not make any sense.
You poor, dumb bastards. It makes perfect sense. If only you watched professional wrestling. Do you get it? It was a heel turn. I'll explain it again. It was a heel turn designed to create the alliance Trump always wanted in the first place. What's to understand? Trump and the Republicans like Putin better. Just listen to Putin.
The radical neoliberalism destroying traditional values. The obsessive emphasis on race. Modern cancel culture. It turns into reverse discrimination, reverse racism. They invented 5 or 6 genders, transformers, trans. You see, I do not even understand what it is. Shared toilets for boys and girls.
Cats marrying dogs. Will and Grace reboot? I mean, come on. It sounds like Putin is primarying Marjorie Taylor Greene from the right. A woman who, by the way, gives up the whole point of this realignment.
The Ukrainian government is attacking Christians. Russia is not doing that. They're not attacking Christianity. As a matter of fact, they seem to be protecting it.
By bombing other Christians. So everyone's wondering, why isn't Trump aligning himself with the West? In his mind, he is. Western civilization, not Europe. To most of us, Russia is not that. Because we, and historically everyone, has used the West to mean Western values. Europe represents the expansion of liberties advocated by great Enlightenment thinkers like Locke, Voltaire, and Rousseau. But to MAGA, this is Europe. It's f***ing gay. Super gay. When MAGA talks about Western civilization, they mean the Knights Templar. Still pretty f***ing gay. I gotta say. But excitingly so. But that's the thing. It's not democracy versus dictatorship or capitalism versus communism anymore. It's woke versus unwoke. And Russia is not woke. They're very tired. They're comatose. It wasn't decided in a particularly volatile meeting on Friday. You got to give credit where credit is due to MAGA architect Steve Bannon. They've been working on taking out the EU for a while now.
It's a global revolt. It's a zeitgeist. We're on the right side of history.
The beating heart of the globalist project is in Brussels. If I drive the stake through the vampire, the whole thing will start to dissipate. We'll call it the movement or the cause or something like that. And that's literally when we take over the EU.
Holy shit. What a concise, centrally planned social engineering scheme. But here we are, the end result of a scripted arc that culminates in America betraying its old alliance for the lure of a strongman partnership that carves up the world's rich bounties and places classic democratic values behind transactional convenience. So say it with me, conspiracy theorists. By design, it's a new world order.
Donald Trump has been busy. In the past couple of days, he's switched sides in the war in Ukraine, announced a national crypto reserve, and dismantled the National Weather Service because part of the fun of experiencing a Category 5 hurricane is the surprise. Trump's been so busy that I was getting worried he'd forgotten his plan to start a North American trade war. But my boy, he put it on the cow.
We begin with the breaking news in America's escalating trade war, and it's dramatic.
A global trade war kicked off at the stroke of midnight. President Trump's 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico are now in effect.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Trade war. Woo! Nobody does war better than USA. USA! USA! That's right, Canada and Mexico are about to feel the pain. And the best part is, it's not going to affect us at all. Boom!
The average American household could spend up to $2,000 more a year on everything from produce to clothes to new cars.
Driving up the cost of a small car by an estimated $6,200, or an SUV by $9,000.
Wait. We're launching a trade war, and it's going to affect us? I'm going to pay $9,000 more for a Kia Sorento? Now I finally get why they say war is hell. So that's what that's what Saving Private Ryan was all about. Private Ryan was a different movie. Isn't this the opposite of what Trump campaigned on? Raising prices on everything? I'm already buying my eggs in installments with Klarna. And the solution that his Secretary of Agriculture came up with, it's not very helpful.
I think the silver lining in all of this is how do we, in our backyards, we've got chickens too in our backyard, how do we solve for something like this? And people are sort of looking around thinking, wow, well, maybe I could get a chicken in my backyard. And it's awesome. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think everyone who isn't a farmer right now wants to be.
Yes, great idea. Great idea. In this time of uncertainty, the one thing I need now is a wild animal in my house pecking my dick while I'm trying to make a frittata. Everybody who's not a farmer wants to be. Are you kidding me? Americans don't even go to grocery stores anymore. We just text Get Cheerios to strangers on Instacart. But sure, I guess I'll become a small farmer. And hey, why stop at chickens? You know, I could grow my own avocados. I could raise my own cows. Wait, why am I buying my steel like a sucker when I could be smelting iron ore in my own bathtub? Either way, prices are about to go up, and I just hope that no one told that to the stock market.
The stock market drops for a second day in a row now that President Trump's tariffs are in effect.
God damn it, who told that to the stock market? So the stock market is plummeting thanks to the trade war that Donald Trump started. So obviously, well, we know who to blame for that, right?
What's left of the Biden economy is slumping so badly. It's just slumping. This is the legacy of the Biden economy.
Damn you, Joe Biden. You were supposed to leave the password to the economy on the White House fridge before you left. If we're going to blame past presidents, why stop at Biden, you know? Jimmy Carter's been awfully quiet lately. How convenient. But I guess rising prices and a tanking stock market, that's just the cost of starting a trade war with your neighbors. Now, Mexico, they expect it, right? Trump's had it out for them since no one showed up to his quinceañera, but... But why Canada? We've always been tight with Canada. We were both British colonies. We play in the same sports leagues together. We share joint custody of Ryan Gosling. If Trump is going to launch a trade war with them, I hope he has a good reason. And I'm sure he does, right? Right? Right?
Trump says the tariffs are needed, and he claims Canada and Mexico aren't doing enough to stop illegal immigration and fentanyl shipments.
The fentanyl coming through Canada is massive.
Of course. Fentanyl and migrants. That makes sense. You know, we can't just be letting Canada pump massive amounts of fentanyl and migrants across our border.
Data shows less than 1% of the fentanyl entering the U.S. comes from Canada, and only 1.5% of Border Patrol encounters with migrants take place at the border with Canada.
Okay, so it's not fentanyl or migrants, and it can't be because Trump's an insecure wannabe alpha male thumping his chest so the world pays attention to him. So I guess we'll never know. It's probably Joe Biden. Whatever it is, Prime Minister Trudeau, he wasn't having it.
Today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. Now I want to speak directly to one specific American. Donald, even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Wow. Yeah. He's mad. And he's not even world leader mad. He's dad mad. This is the same tone I use when I tell my daughter not to throw her baby sister into the crib. You are not that type of person that does this, even though you just did this, and you'll probably keep doing it. But you're not this. Okay, Donald? My daughter's name is Donald. And all of Canada is lining up behind Trudeau, like Ontario's Premier Doug Ford came out to warn America about the consequences of a trade war, although in a confusing way.
The people of the U.S., which I absolutely love, the American people, they're going to be paying more. The market is going to go downhill faster than the American bobsled team.
Oh! Sick burn! I think. I mean, it sounded like a slam, but if the market will go downhill really fast, that means our bobsled team is also fast. And isn't that like a compliment? Our bobsled team is supposed to go fast, right? Unless he's saying our bobsled team is slow, which is a slam, but then that means the market won't go downhill fast, which is good for our economy. This metaphor doesn't make any sense. The point is, Doug Ford is forcing me to learn about bobsledding, and I do not appreciate that. Is there a Canadian who can make an analogy that's a little less confusing? Donna Reardon, the mayor of St. John in New Brunswick, maybe you have a good analogy.
I mean, we've been in this comfortable relationship with our American cousins, and now we're being attacked. So, we're breaking up with the U.S., and it's time to move on.
Yeah, we're cousins, but we're breaking up. This analogy is even worse than the bobsled. You can't break up with your cousin. Sure, you can both go off and get married and start your own families and try to convince yourselves you've moved on, but she's still there at Thanksgiving every year. And yeah, she brings her new husband and she laughs at his jokes, but deep down you can see in her pale blue eyes that she's sad, and I'm sad too, Stephanie. And I know she can see it in my eyes, which are the same color as hers because we're related, and that's why we can't be together, right? Well, what was I talking about? I'm sorry, but look, that's right. Oh, the trade war that we've launched for no reason. The point is, look, what Donald Trump has done to Canada. They're the nicest country on earth, the sexiest cousin, and look what we've brought them out to do.
Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite. But we will not back down from a fight.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford threatened to shut off his province's electricity exports to the United States and block shipments of Ontario's high-grade nickel.
Canadian liquor stores took American whiskey off the shelves.
There's also hashtags Buy Canadian and Boycott USA going viral.
Canadian coffee shop The Morning Owl in Ottawa has renamed its popular Americano coffee to a Canadiano. WWE fans were drowning out the performance of the Star Spangled Banner in Toronto. Take a listen.
Damn. Canada's respect for America has gone down faster than Curtis and Hubert Stevens, gold medalists in the two-man bobsled at the 1932 Lake Placid Olympics. Now that's how you do a bobsled metaphor, Doug. Last night, Donald Trump gave his first joint address to Congress of his new term. And I got to tell you, as a kid who was a bit of a civics nerd, I used to think these were pretty sweet events. You've got the president, the Supreme Court, every member of Congress in the same room. It's basically the Oscars for people with loose skin. But these days, a speech to Congress is just a theatrical production where everybody has a role and they slip right into it. So, places, everyone. Democrats showed up in full wardrobe, dressed in pink, as a symbolic protest against people who wanted them to do something meaningful. And they came with props, too, holding up little paddles like they were ready to give Mike Johnson a naughty little spanking, huh? Either that or a pickleball match. And you know what? Pickleball, all right? You ever played? Yeah. Yeah. Once you get to the front line, you're not even allowed to move. How stupid is that? I'm edgy. Some Democrats took the signage to the next level. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib had a dry erase board that she updated throughout the night with protest messages like, "Stop lying to the American people," or "No king," or "That's a lie." And she went through a lot of them. She had one that said, who has Luigi's sex tape? She did that cool S. "These markers are getting me high." And she had one message that especially resonated with me. It said, "Lucky Loser" by Michael Kosta in stores March 11th. Now, yeah, I know. It's not really appropriate venue for that, but I appreciate it. And I should also mention that Lucky Loser, my book, it's in stores next week, starting on Tuesday. You can order it now. Thank you. Thank you. But those were just the bit players of the night. One Democrat even gave himself a speaking part.
Democrats interrupting just 4 minutes into the speech. Texas Democrat Al Green heckling the president, shaking his cane at him.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House.
Speaker Mike Johnson stopping the speech, ordering Green be removed from the chamber.
Yeah. You know, there's something kind of badass about shaking a cane at someone, right? Don't with me unless you want to take this very slowly outside, all right? I will say props to this guy. He got to send a message to President Trump and go home early, you know? I should have tried that when I wanted to leave my nephew's baptism. You do not have the mandate. I'm out of here. Now, let's not forget about the Republicans. They also played their part in this performance, which was to cheer and hoot for their guy and make sure that everyone knew what country this was. Yeah, USA! USA! Careful, guys. The last time Republicans got this rowdy at the Capitol, Nancy Pelosi had to bleach her desk. Here's a moment that encapsulated the embarrassing theater of the entire night. It's before the speech even started, when Donald Trump is walking down to the podium, surrounded by hooting Republicans, when a Democrat walks up behind him with a sign that says, "This is not normal." Okay. Which, first of all, I think it is normal at this point. Trump has been in our lives for a decade now. Sadly, this is our normal. In the same way that 20 years ago, it wasn't normal to drunkenly jump in the backseat of a stranger's car, but now it's called Uber, and there's only a 50% chance you end up murdered. So yeah, you know, shit changes, okay? But anyway, that Democrat is holding a sign that's wrong and ineffective, and then a divorced dad Republican sees the sign, reaches over and yanks it out of her hand and chucks it onto the floor. And she just stands there and does nothing. She's like, well, that sign was my only idea. But forget the supporting cast. The star of the night was Donald Trump. And you have to admit, he showed a lot of range last night. Okay. Like when he talked about Doge finding Social Security fraud, he got to show off his lying skills.
We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program. Government databases list 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old. 3.6 million people from ages 110 to 119. 3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149. And one person is listed at 360 years of age.
I can't believe we're paying that many people Social Security. I can't believe it because it's not true, okay? And it's been debunked. I could explain why it's false and why Trump's wasting everybody's time over an Excel spreadsheet error. Or, in the time it would take to explain it, we could watch this video of my dog, Walter. Fact checked, he's perfect. But Trump spent a lot of his performance on the waste Elon Musk is finding, while also showcasing his masterful ability to troll.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. Diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. Improving learning outcomes in Asia. LGBTQI+. in the African nation of Lesotho. $8 million for making mice transgender.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that children's book. I think it's called If You Give a Mouse a Pussy, right? Is that... No. Now, to be fair, $8 million to transition mice is a waste of money. You know, just look at Mickey Mouse, right? You put a $6 bow on him and boom, Minnie Mouse. But hey, Trump, maybe you shouldn't criticize weird science stuff when your new best friend is the one putting microchips in monkey brains, and when those monkeys die, your other new best friend is taking them home in a doggy bag. But still, Trump did show his range. When his speech turned to Greenland, he showed off a very singular special talent, reassuring our allies in a bizarrely threatening way.
I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
Does Trump listen to himself when he talks? He's sending a lot of mixed messages right now. You hear that, Greenland? It's your choice, but you will be ours. Dude, look, totally your call. It's inevitable. Look, guys, Greenland, it's up to you. We're easy, okay? Give us your minerals now. Of course, part of Trump's role in this performance is also announcing a major new policy, but doing it in the Trumpiest way possible.
Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. And so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to be accused of April Fool's Day. I'm a very superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in.
Yeah, I mean, makes perfect sense. You know, Trump can't make announcements on April Fool's Day. Otherwise, we would all be like, what? Is this a joke? I mean... You know, as opposed to every other day where that isn't our reaction to the stuff he does. I love the level of reverence Trump shows for April Fool's Day. Juneteenth, that's not even a word. Now, this April Fool's Day, we will honor our ancestors by playing pranks and overall tomfoolery. It's important. By the way, no one over the age of 14 even celebrates April Fool's Day. That's like saying, I was going to end inflation next Friday, but actually that's when the Kids' Choice Awards are, so we'll see. But as always, the most important part of Trump's performance, needling the Democrats.
Joe Biden, the worst president in American history. Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control. Joe Biden's insane and very dangerous open border policies. Look where Biden took us, very low, the lowest we've ever been. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes. I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy, or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do.
I don't get why everyone that I've been bullying for 10 years never smiles at me. Why don't you like me, you limp dick lunatics? And by the way, how is Trump still obsessed with Biden? Move on, dude. You won, right? You think Mark Zuckerberg is still talking about Tom from MySpace? No. He's busy having a midlife crisis. Look at this. Also, dude, you busted out the Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas line? That is such an old joke. You might as well have been like, hey, Pocahontas, what the... So all in all, my review of last night's theater production is that it was humiliating in a display of thirst for attention, blind partisan rage, and a total disinterest in doing anything that might benefit the people. In other words, it truly was the State of the Union. Being president comes with a lot of pretty cool powers. You can write executive orders, you get one free checked bag on Air Force One, and you even get an uncensored feed of C-SPAN, which... But for Donald Trump, the power he enjoys the most is the power to impose tariffs.
Tariffs are easy, They're fast, they're efficient, and they bring fairness. We're going to bring so many things back to our country, and the thing that's going to get us there is tariffs. We'll take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to make our country so strong and so rich, it will never be so rich. Tariffs, it's a beautiful word, isn't it?
Tariff. It's a beautiful word. It's why I named my daughter Tariffany. This guy's so horny for tariffs, isn't he? I love any word with big natural double Fs. According to Donald Trump, tariffs are great. And I also want our country to be rich without any negative consequences. So let's see how he's imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And let's sit back and let's watch that economy roar, baby.
Tonight, the stock market dropping more than 600 points.
U.S. stock markets plunged for the second day in a row.
We've seen consumer confidence tank.
Layoff numbers across the U.S. are the highest they've been since 2020.
The R word is back, thanks in large part to tariffs.
Wait, the R word is back? Tariffs brought back the R word? So I guess I can say it.
Wall Street banks are starting to raise a red flag that recession odds have become unsettlingly high.
Right, that R word. Of course, that's what I was thinking. I can be such a recession sometimes. By the way, is recession an R word now? Who thinks the word recession is offensive? Finance bros? Did they get woke? Before we discuss the impending R word, we begin by acknowledging that we are on the ancestral grounds of Capitol Grill, where Chad was unjustly removed by the bartender before he could get a chance to cheat on his wife. Sup, Chad? So basically, Trump said the tariffs are going to be a quick and painless way to get rich. And now that it turns out we're not all shitting gold, Republicans have moved into their new talking point. Hey, nobody said this was going to be easy. Trust the process.
There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that.
There's going to be a little bit of pain going into this.
It is going to be painful.
And if I have to pay a little bit more for something, I'm all for it.
We're going to have to suffer through some bad news.
There's going to be a short period of time where there'll be some higher prices on certain products. It's not inflation, that's nonsense.
Yeah. Nonsense. It's not inflation, people. It's just higher prices on food and cars and gas and every other product we import from our biggest trading partners. But do you know what? We might be in for some hard times, but tariffs are Donald Trump's whole thing. And if there's one thing I know about Donald Trump, he's a man who sticks to his guns.
Breaking news into CNN. President Trump's officially delaying tariffs on Mexico and Canada.
Wait. After all that, tariffs are now on hold? Trump just backed away from those tariffs like it was a long-time friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. So tariffs are on, they're delayed, they're off. Who knows if they'll come back or when or for how long? Look, I'm not a big business guy, but quick question. Does anyone know if businesses need to make decisions more than 4 hours in advance? So it appears the only silver lining in this pointless trade war is that at least we're only fighting with Canada and Mexico. You know, if you're going to pick a fight with two sissy countries you can beat, right? Right?
The Chinese embassy in the U.S. tweeting earlier this week, quote, "If war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight to the end."
Oh, shit. China don't play. They're like, if you got beef, we got broccoli, bitch. Let's go. Listen, Donald, Canada and Mexico are one thing, but please don't piss off China. I know you wrote The Art of the Deal, but they wrote The Art of War, okay? And I think a trade war with China might lead to, at best, a devastating economic depression, or at worst, nuclear destruction of most of American cities. Or as Trump might say,
There'll be a little disturbance.